The medical bay trembled with tension as alarms flickered crimson across the walls. Blood, thick, dark, and foreign, spattered the floor in uneven streaks. At the center of the chaos, the creature restrained to the reinforced table thrashed violently, every muscle coiled with agony and fear. Dr. Nara flexed her mandibles in deep frustration, her compound eyes rapidly scanning the diagnostic displays. She had memorized thousands of medical protocols across her 30-cycle career, but even her renowned precision couldn't overcome the flashing red indicators screaming across the monitors. "Sedation still ineffective," reported her Quellan assistant, voice trembling, heart rate rising, internal hemorrhaging worsening. Of course it was. This was a Dravik, predator apex of a world built to kill anything that dared to breathe its air. 6 massive limbs carved grooves into the metal flooring every time the creature convulsed. Its fangs, glistening like polished blades, clashed together with enough force to shear bone. Protocol was clear. A critically injured Death World predator could not be treated. It had to be put down, humanely, swiftly, without risking the station staff. "Contact the owner," Nara said. "We'll begin termination procedure once approval arrives." The doors hissed open. "You can't." Captain Roth barreled inside, the rocky ridges of his granitic body etched with worry. "You cannot kill him. He saved my crew, every last one of us." Nara did not even turn. "You should have brought him before he deteriorated. He is feral now. Any further approach risks a massacre. There must be another way." "There isn't." She motioned for her assistant to prepare the euthanasia protocol when a quiet voice cut through the room like a blade. "Wait." Heads turned. Dr. Ben Foster stood near the back, arms folded, eyes fixed on a raging creature, as though studying a puzzle no one else could see. The human had only arrived 3 days ago, transferred from a rural veterinary facility on Earth, and Nara had dismissed him as irrelevant. Earth animals were simplistic. Their predators were laughably small compared to the monsters she treated. "You object, Dr. Foster?" Nara asked, her voice tinged with annoyance. "I do." Ben stepped closer to the energy barrier, stopping just short of it. "He's not attacking. He's panicking." "The distinction does nothing to change the risk," Nara snapped. Ben pointed. "Look at his eyes." Reluctantly, she activated her optical enhancers. The Dravik's pupils were blown wide, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. His posture wasn't aggressive. It was defensive. "He is afraid," Nara murmured, surprised despite herself. "And in brutal pain," Ben said. "He's guarding his left side. Your scanners say that's where the bleeding is worst. Every movement feels like fire. So he's lashing out because he thinks anything near him is another threat." Nara clattered her mandibles. "Regardless, sedatives are useless. Approaching him is suicide. Then let me try without sedation." Gasps rippled through the staff. Captain Roth grabbed his arm. "Human, don't be an idiot. He'll tear you apart." Ben shrugged gently. "Maybe, but maybe he won't. If someone speaks his language." "Draviks have no language," Nara insisted. "All animals do," Ben replied calmly. "You just have to listen." The bay fell silent. Ben looked directly at Nara, expression steady. "He's dying anyway. What do we lose by letting me try?" She hesitated, rare for an Altheran. Logic war with curiosity, and for once, curiosity won. "If you are injured, the station holds no liability," she warned. "Understood." She signaled her assistant. The front section of containment field dissolved with a shimmer. Nothing separated Ben from the wounded predator now. He moved slowly, lowering himself into a crouch, turning his body sideways to appear smaller, non-threatening. He kept his gaze soft, not directly meeting the Dravik's eyes. Then he stepped into the containment zone. The Dravik's head snapped toward him. A snarl rolled through the air, vibrating the floor. Claws flexed, muscles tensed to spring. Ben stopped. His voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "Easy, buddy. I'm not here to hurt you." The growl faltered. The entire bay went silent, holding its breath, watching the impossible unfold. Ben inched forward, calm radiating from him like heat. "That's it. You're okay." I've got you. And for the first time since it had been dragged into the medical bay, the Dravik stilled. The air in the bay felt thinner as Ben took another careful step forward. The Dravik's breath came in uneven bursts, misting the cold air around its snout. Its tail, earlier whipping with lethal rage, now twitched in tense confusion. No one had ever willingly entered containment zone with a feral Dravik. Dr. Nera's hands hovered over the emergency barrier controls, ready to snap the field back on the moment the creature lunged. Her staff stood frozen, torn between warning the human and witnessing what felt like a historical event. Ben lowered himself further until he almost knelt in the blood-smeared floor. He angled his body deliberately, avoiding any stance that could be read as a challenge. He kept his voice soft, steady, every word an anchor thrown across a vast gulf of fear. It's okay. I see you. I know you're hurting. The Dravik's pupils trembled. Its massive chest rose and fell with painful, shuddering breaths. It did not growl this time. Ben extended his hand slowly, not toward the creature's face, but to the floor, palm down. A sign he had once used with a wolf he rescued back home. A gesture that said, I'm here. I'm safe. You decide. Minutes passed, long, suffocating minutes, where the entire room forgot how to breathe. Then the impossible happened. The Dravik lowered its head by an inch. Not much. Barely anything. But to Ben, it was an invitation. That's it. Good boy, you're doing great. He edged closer until he was within striking distance. One swipe, one bite, one startled flinch could end him. But he didn't stop. His calm was not bravado. It was certainly born from years of reading wounded animals. The Dravik inhaled sharply, trying to catch Ben's scent. Its lip curled, not in aggression, but because the pain in its ribs made every breath torture. Ben whispered, I know it hurts. He reached forward and placed his hand against the Dravik's skull. A collective gasp rippled across the bay. The creature froze. Ben froze. Even the medical monitors seemed to pause. Then, slowly, the Dravik exhaled. A long, broken sound like air leaking through cracked stone. Its muscles unclenched, just enough for Ben to slide his other hand along the side of its head. Dr. Nera blinked in disbelief. How is this possible? Ben didn't look up. His fingers traced lightly along the creature's fur, feeling the tremors, mapping every pattern of pain. Because no one tried listening to him. He shifted his hand to the Dravik's left side. The creature flinched violently, legs scraping the floor. Easy, Ben murmured, keeping his touch steady. I've got you. He examined by feel, each breath, each twitch, each vibration under his fingertips giving more information than any scanner could. He found the fractures along the rib cage. The punctured lung was obvious from the wet, struggling breaths. The bruising across the spine made the creature jerk whenever Ben's hand brushed that area. 3 broken ribs, Ben said softly, more to himself than the staff. Lung puncture, leg fracture, severe swelling. Nera, stunned into silence for far too long, finally stepped closer. How did you diagnose that without instruments? Everything the body can say, it says. Ben replied, simply, if you listen. The Dravik let out a low, guttural whine. Instinctively, Ben leaned forward until his forehead rested gently against the side of the creature's head, a gesture that made half the room panic and the other half freeze in awe. You're okay, he whispered. We're going to fix you. Captain Roth, who had been gripping the door frame so tightly his stone-like fingers left dents, exhaled shakily. I've transported predators for 20 years. Never seen one act like that. Humans, muttered a Quellan assistant, bond with dangerous creatures. It is peculiar. Peculiar, Nera echoed, but effective. She stepped fully inside the containment zone, another first for any Altheran. The Dravik's eyes snapped toward her, lips twitching. Ben pressed a firm hand against the creature's head. Hey, she's here to help. Friend. To Nera's absolute shock, the Dravik relaxed again. She swallowed, a rare sign of fear in her species, and activated her medical scanner. Insertion point for lung drainage is 7 centimeters beneath the 4th rib, 15-degree angle inward. Got it. Ben sterilized the area with one hand, while soothing the Dravik with the other. This will hurt, he whispered. The creature tensed. Ben inserted the tube. The Dravik yelped, a deep, wounded sound, but did not strike. Not with Ben's hand steady on its head. Not with his voice grounding it like gravity itself. Moments later, blood drained. Breathing eased. Nera stared, stunned. He trusted you through the pain. Trust is a two-way deal, Ben murmured. He gave me his life. I gave him mine. For nearly an hour, the medical bay moved like a well-oiled machine. Except none of this was in any protocol book. Dr. Nera worked with the precision of her species, her multi-jointed hands guiding equipment and scanning readouts. Ben, on the other hand, relied on touch instinct and an uncanny ability to see past the fear twisting inside the creature beneath his hands. Throughout the treatment, Ben maintained one constant rule. One hand always stayed on the Dravik, a grounding point, a promise, a reminder that the human standing over him meant help, not harm. As the drainage tube continued pulling blood from the lung, the Dravik's breathing gradually shifted. Each inhale grew deeper, each exhale less strangled, heart rate stabilizing, stress markers dropping. The medical team stared in total disbelief. Nera watched the data stream and shook her head. This should be impossible. Textbooks insist Draviks remain combative until unconscious. Maybe the textbooks never gave them a chance, Ben said quietly. He moved to the fractured front leg. The limb trembled with every attempt at weight-bearing, but the Dravik didn't thrash this time. He simply watched Ben with exhausted, fearful eyes. You're all right, Ben murmured. Almost done. The leg was badly damaged, bone fragments misaligned, tissue swollen and dark. Nera prepared the bone stabilizer, while Ben checked the angle by touch. You're ignoring the scanners again, Nera observed. I'm comparing. Ben corrected her. Machines give details. Touch gives meaning. He'll tolerate the treatment if he feels involved. Nera froze. Involved? Draviks do not involve themselves. This one does. He began setting the bone with slow, deliberate movements. The Dravik winced but did not fight. When Ben's hand brushed the creature's ear ridge, the beast let out a rumble, a sound shockingly close to comfort. Nera spoke softly, not wanting to break the fragile peace. You spoke earlier of language. Do you truly believe you communicate with him? Ben smiled slightly. Every creature communicates. They just don't always use words. But how can an animal understand your intent without shared vocabulary? Because intent isn't spoken, he answered. It's felt. She processed this silently. By the time they finished stabilizing ribs, leg, and spine bruising, the Dravik lay quietly, exhausted but no longer panicked. The Quellan assistant checked the vitals again. Brain stress indicators are dropping. His fight response is nearly gone. Of course it is, Ben said. He finally doesn't feel alone. Captain Ross stared at the scene, arms crossed tightly across his stone-plated chest. I've seen Draviks rip apart prison bars. I've watched them throw armored soldiers like toys. But this is new. Ben patted the creature's massive head. He saved your crew, right? Roth nodded. Yes. He fought off an entire raiding party. He didn't hesitate. Then someone should finally return the favor. The Dravik chuffed, a deep, fluttering vibration that resonated in its chest. It pressed gently into Ben's palm, an action so affectionate and vulnerable that the room collectively froze. Nera's mandibles clicked several times in astonishment. He's bonding. Draviks do not bond. Their species is known for solitary aggression. Maybe they've only been treated like weapons, Ben said, not like living, feeling creatures. He continued checking the healing gel applied along the spine. The swelling had reduced significantly. The creature visibly relaxed each time Ben's fingers brushed a sensitive spot. Nera found herself observing more than assisting. Something about the human's presence, soft voice, steady rhythm, unwavering calm, rewrote everything she thought she understood about predator care. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Foster, if I could document what occurred here today, the Galactic Veterinary Council would dismiss it as fabrication. Ben chuckled. Better let me get him healed before we worry about paperwork. The Dravik shifted slightly. Then, in a startling but gentle motion, he nudged Ben's chest and rested his head against him, a gesture that in any other context would signal dominance or warning. But this was different. This was trust. Ben rubbed the creature's neck. Good boy. You made it. The Dravik's tail thumped weakly. For the first time, Nara allowed herself to believe this was an anomaly, or luck, or reckless human bravado. Something fundamental was happening. Something that could change everything they thought they knew about alien medicine. 2 days passed in a blur of steady breathing, whispered reassurances, and sleepless vigilance. Ben didn't leave the recovery bay, not even when Nara insisted rest was medically advisable for humans. He slept on the floor beside the Dravik, one hand always resting on the creature's massive side, monitoring every heartbeat with quiet determination. To Nara, it was excessive. To Ben, it was necessary. Draviks, he explained, were like wolves, creatures that survive by trusting their pack. Right now, injured and vulnerable, the Dravik had only one pack member. Him. Your patient shows stable vitals. Nara argued on the second day. There is no logical reason for you to remain at his side. Ben scratched behind the creature's ear ridge. The Dravik's tail thumped like a slow drumbeat. He panics when I leave. Heart rate jumps 30%. That's reason enough. Nara clicked her mandibles sharply, equivalent to an exasperated sigh. He has formed an attachment. Temporary, Ben said, though his tone hinted he wasn't entirely sure. Or maybe he remembers who didn't give up on him. She didn't respond. She simply watched the Dravik lean into Ben's touch and wondered whether every assumption her species held about predator psychology was flawed. To distract herself, she opened a datapad. I have been studying Earth's history with predatory species, she announced. Your domestication patterns are unusual. Ben smiled. You looked up dogs, and you? And wolves. Humans develop bonds with them through shared survival. That is not standard practice among most galactic cultures. Most galactic cultures don't think in terms of partnership, Ben replied. They think in terms of dominance or control. And you believe, Nara said slowly, that such partnership applies to all species? Ben scratched the Dravik's jaw ridges. Every creature wants food, safety, and someone who understands them. Doesn't matter if they're from Montana or a death world. Before Nara could respond, alarms blared, slicing through the peaceful recovery room. She scanned the alert. Incoming patient, critical. Species, Talvex. Talvex. Ben stood quickly. What are they like? Cold-blooded, high-gravity origin. Notoriously difficult to treat, Nara explained. They become highly aggressive when injured. Ben gave the Dravik one last pat. Stay here, buddy. I'll be back. The creature whined, a low, mournful sound, but settled onto his blanket with heavy reluctance. The emergency bay doors opened as a transport team rushed in, pushing a containment unit twice the size of the Dravik's. Inside, a reptilian creature thrashed weakly, scales chipped and dull, one leg collapsed at an unnatural angle. Following containment team was a tall figure dressed in ceremonial robes, a Talvex keeper. Emerald green scales shimmered faintly in the harsh medical lights. You are the human? The Talvex's voice was gravelly and stern. Dr. Ben Foster, Ben replied. You must be the owner. I am Keeper Voss. The tall reptilian stepped alongside the containment pod. This is Stryker, my companion. The stiffness in his tone suggested the word companion was unfamiliar territory. He has been ill for 6 cycles. 3 medical facilities refuse to treat him. Why? They claimed his biology was incompatible with treatment. They claimed he was too volatile. Voss's jaw tightened. But we heard what you did with the Dravik. I beg you, help him. He is dying. Ben glanced at Nara. What do we know about Talvex physiology? They require precise temperature ranges. Nara explained, pulling up data. Too cold, and they slip toward dormancy. Too warm, and their organs fail. They are also believed to lack social bonding instincts. Believed to, Ben repeated, but unproven. He looked at Voss. Tell me about Stryker. Not medically, personally. Voss blinked. He hunts. He basks in thermal pools. He tolerates my presence. That's it. A long pause. He sometimes leaves food outside my door. Ben smirked. That's not instinct. That's affection. He stepped toward the containment field. Voss raised a clawed hand. He will bite. He has bitten every vet he has met. I'll take my chances. Ben motioned for the barrier to be lowered. Nera hesitated but complied. The field dissolved. Stryker's eyes tracked Ben immediately, his jaws open in a weak but threatening hiss. Ben crouched, keeping his posture small and his movements slow. Hey, Stryker, I know everything hurts. Let me help. Stryker snapped, fast, even in his weakened state. Ben didn't flinch. You're scared, he whispered. I get that. Something shifted then, something subtle. Stryker's eyes drifted toward Ben's outstretched palm, toward the warmth radiating from it. Ben's eyes widened. He's cold, Ben said. Nera, what's the room temperature? Standard station temperature, 20 degrees. What temperature does a Talvex need? 35 to 40. Ben exhaled sharply. He's not dying from injury. He's dying from being cold. Stryker leaned toward Ben's hand, seeking heat. Voss stared, shaken. He seeks your warmth? No, Ben corrected gently. He's seeking anyone's warmth, including yours. Stryker pressed his snout into Ben's palm, desperate for heat and comfort. Ben looked up at Voss. He's not just hurt. He's lonely. Stryker leaned harder into Ben's hand, scales scraping softly against the floor as he tried to absorb every bit of warmth he could. His breaths were shallow, dry, rasping sounds that spoke of exhaustion, fear, and a life slowly slipping away. Ben kept perfectly still, letting the Talvex feel the steadiness of his heat. Easy, you're all right. I'm not here to hurt you. Stryker's eyes, dulled by dehydration and stress, narrowed with something resembling recognition. His body, moments ago trembling with pain, relaxed by a fraction. Keeper Voss looked shaken, his emerald scales shifting shades in ways Ben hadn't seen before. He has not allowed anyone to approach him in cycles. He bit the last healer who attempted treatment. He wasn't angry, Ben said softly. He was freezing. Nera tapped rapidly at her datapad. Your assessment aligns with the biological data. Cold exposure would cause near total system slowdown. Shock. Possible organ suppression. Ben nodded. Reptiles on Earth behave the same. When they get too cold, they don't think. They just survive. Barely. Stryker hissed weakly. But this time it wasn't a warning. It was a plea. Ben gestured gently to Voss. Come closer. Voss stiffened. He will strike if I enter the field. No, Ben murmured. He won't. Not if he moves slowly. Voss hesitated. Ancient cultural habits, warring with instinct. Talvex society prized emotional distance. Bonding was considered primitive. But one look at Stryker, collapsed, starving, desperate for warmth, and something in Voss shifted. He stepped inside the containment area. Stryker sensed him immediately, head lifting an inch, nostrils flaring. Not with aggression, but recognition. Ben took advantage of the moment. Put your hand here. On his head. Voss hesitated, scales paling at the edges. If he bites, he won't. Slowly. So slowly Voss's hand trembled. He placed his palm on Stryker's skull. Instantly, the Talvex let out a low, broken sound. Not a hiss, not a warning. Something deeper, something ancient. He pressed his head against Voss's hand. Voss froze. His eyes widened with disbelief. He knows me. He's been trying to bond with you for years, Ben said gently. You just didn't see it. The keeper's throat tightened. We do not form such attachments. Maybe you should. For several seconds, Voss stayed there, allowing Stryker to rest against him. Then he spoke, voice barely audible. What do I do? First thing, Ben said, we raise this room's temperature to 38 degrees. Nera reacted instantly. That is uncomfortable for warm-blooded species. I'll manage, Ben said. Stryker won't. Nera keyed and the temperature override. Warm air flooded the room. humidity rising. Ben felt sweat gather at his temples, but Stryker's scales visibly brightened, color returning as warmth seeped back into his body. Good, Ben murmured. Now bring heated blankets, thermal pads, warm hydration fluids. He's dehydrated, starved, and freezing. Voss kept his hand on Stryker's head, as though afraid to break the fragile moment forming between them. He needs company, Ben said. Talvex probably huddle for warmth on their homeworld. You isolating him because of old beliefs, it almost killed him. Voss bowed his head in shame. I wanted to follow tradition. Tradition doesn't matter if it kills the ones you care about. Stryker shifted weakly, curling toward Voss's body heat. The keeper let out a slow, trembling exhale. He will not be alone again. This I swear. Nara approached with the heated blankets. Dr. Foster, you should begin hydration therapy. Ben nodded and began preparing warm fluids. Voss stayed by Stryker's side, murmuring softly in the Talvex tongue, words he had probably never spoken to another living being. Stryker responded instantly. His breathing eased. His eyes brightened. His body pressed closer. He understands you, Ben said, smiling. And he trusts you. Trust. It was a simple concept, yet one this galaxy had forgotten. Nara watched the scene unfold, her analytical mind reeling. This challenges everything we know about Talvex behavior. It challenges everything you think you know about animal behavior. Ben corrected gently. Fear makes any creature dangerous. Safety makes them gentle. Stryker let out a soft rumble, curling around Voss's legs. A bond had formed, real, powerful, undeniable, and it was only the beginning. By the time Stryker stabilized, the medical bay felt almost unrecognizable from the tense, sterile chamber it had been hours earlier. Warm air hummed through the vents. The Talvex, now wrapped in heated blankets, rested peacefully with his snout pressed against Keeper Voss's leg. Something Nara would have once considered biologically impossible. Ben wiped sweat from his brow and stepped back, letting the two share their moment. He's going to make it, he said quietly. Voss looked up, his usually sharp eyes softened. I did not believe he could be saved. Ben shrugged lightly. You didn't need to believe it. You just needed to care enough to try. The keeper lowered his head in a gesture that looked surprisingly like gratitude. You have saved more than a life today. Human, you have changed how my people will view our companions. Nara stood beside Ben, her mandibles clicking in thought. This pattern is consistent. The Dravik, the Talvex, two species historically considered solitary, aggressive, incapable of forming emotional ties. And yet, both responded when approached correctly. Ben placed a gentle hand on Stryker's side, monitoring the warmth returning beneath the scales. Animals aren't aggressive by nature. They're scared, confused, injured, or misunderstood. That's all. Nara exhaled slowly. Perhaps the flaw was not their behavior, but our assumptions. Before Ben could reply, another alarm flashed across the bay. A message appeared on the central screen. Incoming emergency transport, multiple casualties. Nara's mandibles snapped tight. Another crisis? Already, Ben tensed. What's the situation? Colony transport malfunction, she read quickly. Dozens of animals exposed to zero gravity and extreme cold for several hours. Severe trauma expected. Ben's stomach dropped. How many? 53? He ran a hand through his hair. We can't handle that alone. No, Nara agreed, but protocol requires triage. We save what we can and... No. Ben grabbed her shoulder, not forcefully, but urgently. We're not letting any of them die. Nara stared at him, overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility. We do not have enough time or staff. Even with Voss's help, even with the Dravik stabilized. Then we don't do it alone, Ben said. We teach their keepers how to help. Nara froze. You want inexperienced civilians assisting in medical treatment? They won't handle the medical procedures. They'll handle the emotional ones. The emotional ones? Ben nodded, eyes blazing with certainty. Fear is half the problem. If their owners stay with them, talk to them, comfort them, ground them, the animals will stabilize long enough for us to treat the physical injuries. Nara considered this. The logic was questionable, the outcome unpredictable, but she had seen enough today to know one thing for certain. When Ben Foster said something could work, the universe seemed determined to prove him right. "Very well," she said. "We will try it." Ben flashed a grateful smile. "Thank you." The docking bay looked like a battlefield. 53 containment pods. 53 wounded creatures of every species imaginable. Some roared, terrified. Others lay motionless, drained of strength. Their keepers paced anxiously behind security barriers, helpless and afraid. Ben climbed onto a cargo crate, raising his voice above the chaos. "Everyone listen. I'm Dr. Ben Foster. I'm going to help your animals. But I need you to help me." All eyes turned to him. Humans, Quellins, Gronics, insectoid species with shimmering carapaces, reptilians with trembling tails. A human woman stepped forward. "My daughter's falcon won't respond. She thinks it's dying." Tears ran down her face. "What do I do?" Ben's tone softened instantly. "Where's your daughter?" "Still on the transport. I didn't want her to see." "She needs to be here," Ben said gently. "Her falcon needs her voice more than any medicine I can give." The woman nodded and sprinted back toward the ship. Ben addressed the rest of the group. "Your animals aren't just injured. They're terrified, cold, confused. They think they're dying, but you can show them they're safe." He demonstrated a calming posture, voice steady. "Talk to them softly. Stay close. Don't crowd them. Let them feel you're here." A Quellin male raised a trembling hand. "The med staff told us to stay away." "I'm the med staff now," Ben said firmly. "And I'm telling you, get close." Nara stepped forward beside him. "You will not interfere with treatments, but you will provide emotional stability. Follow Dr. Foster's instructions precisely." The keepers spread out, hesitant at first, then bravely stepping toward their companions. Ben watched a young child reunite with her falcon. The moment her small hands touched its feathers, the creature stirred, heart rate steadying almost instantly, and that moment rippled across the room. Fear began to fade. Voices filled the bay. Creatures calmed. Lives stabilized. Ben and Nara moved to the crowd, performing critical medical procedures while owners provided grounding, warmth, and comfort. Hours passed. Not a single patient died. Not one. When the last creature was declared stable, Ben sank onto a bench, exhausted but glowing with quiet triumph. Nara sat beside him, her tone filled with awe. "Dr. Foster, this should have failed." Ben smiled tiredly. "But it didn't." "No." Nara agreed, watching keepers curl beside their animals. "It succeeded because you were right. Love is a form of medicine." Ben leaned back, listening to the soft hum of the bay. "It's the oldest one there is."